Very good evening, viewers. You're watching the Urban Debate with me, Afrida Rahman Ali. Tonight, we put the focus back again on flight passenger safety. Union Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia held a meeting with the aviation regulator as well as the chiefs of all major airlines in India. And this comes in the wake of the spurt in the number of mishaps involving various domestic as well as international flights. Remember, mishaps were averted, a number of them in the last 1 month as well. Air India Express flight diverted, as you see on your screens right now, the incidents that we are going to list out for you. Air India Express flight diverted, Calicut to Dubai flight that was diverted to Muscat because of a burning smell that came from one of the vents. The flight was diverted as a precautionary measure. DGCA is probing the incident. Now, on the 17th of July, again this year, an Indigo flight was diverted, Sharjah-Hyderabad flight that was diverted to Karachi. The pilot reported a technical defect in the aircraft. The flight was diverted again as a precautionary measure. Additional flight was sent to Karachi to fly the passengers to Hyderabad. This case as well, DGCA is probing the matter. 12th of July, again, in this month as well, SpiceJet Dubai Madurai flight delayed. The aircraft's nose wheel malfunctioned. Earlier to that, on the 6th of July 2022, this year, Vistara flight engine fails and the Vistara flight landed in Delhi from Bangkok. The engine failed after it landed at the IGI airport in Delhi. Now, just a day before that, on the 5th of July, again, SpiceJet flight makes a landing at Karachi. The Delhi-Dubai flight safe lands. Indicator light malfunction was cited in this case. 2nd of July, again 2022, smoke in SpiceJet's Delhi-Jabalpur flight. The crew members observed smoke in the cabin. The pilots decided to return back to Delhi, to the original, to the place of origin. Number of such incidents. 25th of June 2022, SpiceJet's Patna-Guwahati flight faces a glitch. The aircraft stopped takeoff and the aircraft's fuselage door warning lights lit up. 24th of June, again SpiceJet's Guwahati-Kolkata flight faces a glitch. Warning from the baggage door from the rear end, and the aircraft then again returned to Guwahati. June 19th, 2022, fire in the engine of SpiceJet flight again, which was Delhi bound, took off from Patna. Engine malfunctioned because of bird-hit plane that made emergency landing. We'll keep playing out those instances on our screen so that viewers can get an idea of the entire range of mishaps, untoward incidents that have taken place. Viewers can see for their easy understanding. We've put it out on text as well, the reason why this mishap happened officially as per the statements released. Of course, in many of these cases, the probe is still on. So today, the civil aviation regulator DGCA has issued stricter norms for the airlines. It had conducted many random spot checks and found out the following. Number 1, improper identification of cause of a reported defect. Number 2, increasing trend of usage of minimum equipment list. This is supposed to be the bare minimum, but then many of these airlines are going with that as the norm. Non-availability of enough staff to cater to arrival and departure, so manpower shortage. Airlines not following regulatory provisions. Airlines have now been told to buckle up or face action. The issue does not end with compliance by these airlines, but in regular implementation of the same. So tonight I want to talk to our experts, our panelists, about how safe are Indian skies given these circumstances. So many incidents of mishaps, and clearly this kind of instances are happening with an alarming regularity, which leads us to the question on how do we overcome this? How do we make passenger safety paramount? Let me go across to our guest this evening, Parvez Damania, Aviation Expert, Captain Amit Singh, founder of Safety Matters Foundation, Air Commodore B.S. Siwach, DG Aviation Safety Management Society of India, and Parvez Damania, who's an aviation lawyer. Good to have you with us here on the Urban Debate. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here and for giving us your time. I want to begin, in fact, by raising an important question around air passenger safety. And if I can begin with Mr. Parvez Damania, closed shaves, narrow escapes, backup systems activated the last minute. All of this sounds nightmarish, isn't it? It's as if, somehow the crew or the pilot alertness had saved the day in many of these cases that I read out. So airline reputation has taken a beating. Air travel safety has come under scrutiny. Do you think it's high time, therefore, to have a meeting on the safety standards as it happened today with the aviation ministers to check on where do we stand on safety standards?
No, I agree with you completely. The Civil Aviation Ministers called for a meeting to review the entire situation, and the number of incidents are going up very, very fast. And I do not understand why the airlines are not taking these issues very seriously. The airlines should buckle up their engineering setup. And the interesting part is all the airlines are doing very well. The load factors are very high. There's absolutely no restriction in the fare structure. The airlines are charging whatever they like. So I fail to understand why there should be any compromise on the standards of safety and engineering. Because I feel some of the airlines are not putting in enough money into engineering, enough money into safety factors, and that's very, very highly dangerous. Every airline has a flight safety department, which directly reports to the CEO, which is not part of the engineering. And it is their duty to see that safety standards are maintained. DGCA is a body in India which is doing whatever it can to maintain the standards. But unfortunately, DGCA cannot be everywhere. They do not have that kind of manpower. So it is up to the airline to retrospect and look into the standards, because whether it's a low-cost airline or a full-service airline, there can be absolutely no compromise on the quality of the engine. Again, I've said before, the airline aircraft that people are using, the Boeing and Airbus, are some of the finest in the world, very, very high safety records. And all they need is regular maintenance and doing all the safety checks. Again, what is worrying me, some of the airlines might be strained financially because of the COVID, had a very bad impact on the aviation industry. That is in the past, and according to the government, apart from doing safety audit, the government should also carry regularly financial audits of these airlines, because the airline should be sufficiently funded. Government advisory is, I think, that there should be 6 months capital. I'm not too sure if all these airlines are very well funded, and if they're not well funded, then we have a risk. Again, the thing is, if you have a fleet strength of, say, 50 aircrafts, and you do not have the engineering set for 50 aircraft, down a few aircrafts. But at least the 40 aircraft for the smaller fleet that you're flying should be very, very in top condition engineering. When a passenger gets on an aircraft, he should be mentally right that nothing's going to wrong. I'm going to land from A to B without any untold incidents.
Yes, but that confidence is shaken, Mr. Damania, isn't it? If you have instances, happening with this kind of a regularity, Captain Singh, I want to address this question to you. Do you agree with Mr. Damania that clearly somewhere there have been lapses in checks, in maintaining the checks and balances? The maintenance job has not been done thoroughly, either because there's a shortage of manpower or because there's a fund crisis. What, according to you, is the reason?
Well, as per my analysis, there are three main things. You have people, processes, and technology. You need to have the right kind of people with right qualifications in the right place. To manage safety, the regulator, the DGCA, appoints the head of safety. And also the quality manager in engineering. So these are the people who report to the accountable manager, not to the head of operations or the head of engineering. So they have a direct reporting link, because the accountable manager is now responsible for safety. So he should get a direct line or direct feel of what is actually happening. So if this person who is kind of appointed by the regulator does not perform and does not have his ear on the ground, does not pick up trends, does not analyze data as well, cannot pick up trends. So the system is not fed with the right kind of parameters or data. So there will be lapses. So now DGCA cannot be present everywhere. That is why DGCA entrusts safety in the hands of the head of safety. But if they do not perform, like it has been the case of SpiceJet in 2019, the head of safety was removed. The safety management system was not implemented properly, it was found. Engineering processes were weak. In 2022, after the Durgapur accident, where the aircraft went into turbulence, the head of safety was again removed. So we don't have the right kind of people, it seems, or who are not performing as well up to the required standards. Then we have processes. The safety management system is the only process which identifies the threats in advance. It is not a reactive system. It is a proactive, or it can be a predictive system.
Okay.
Unlike a regular accident or investigation, which only finds the proximate cause or the person to blame, in aviation, we try to find out the root cause so that it doesn't happen again. So it needs a lot of data and analysis, for which we need technology. Now, technology can be used in terms of, we have satellite communication, cards, which takes the real-time data from the aircraft. So this can be picked up and we can monitor the engines, if happening on the aircraft.
Yes, because for every time, like you said, for DGCA to step in may not be possible. DGCA has now again, after today's meeting, the Civil Aviation Minister met with heads of all the top airlines. The DGCA has issued stricter norms for maintenance and found, the engineering processes lacking. Number of engineering-related incidents were found, according to DGCA's finding, that there are lacunae in aircraft management and maintenance of engineering standards. Now, this sounds like, it has been ignored for some time. Are there serious lacunae already existing which the airlines tried to cover up or operate or manage with those existing problems in the system? Air Commodore Siwach, I would like to address that question to you. Especially on the outcome of today's meeting, where there were serious lapses found in the engineering processes.
Thanks, Frida. Basically, the problem lies with our management of the airlines. And of course, DGCA makes rule, regulation, procedure. They were pretty strict about it. But the implementation of these rule, regulation, SOP procedures have been found wanting. And this audit, which has been carried out by the DGCA, has revealed a large number of lapses in the maintenance procedures. Now, basic problem is that number of incidents which have taken place recently, it may not be a bad coincidence. It may be forerunner to some serious issues which we may face in future. The meeting by the Minister of Civil Aviation has been very timely, and of course, I'm sure certain strong message must have been sent to the airline management to pull up their socks and start taking aviation business very, very seriously. Now, because of most of the airlines are running in losses, and they are busy trying to make up for their losses.
Mm-hmm.
So there has been a problem on the pay and other perks, etc., of the pilots, engineer, technician, and other supporting staff as well. So because of that, and people are expecting that once the airline business picks up, the salary will be, enhanced. But that has not happened as per the expectation of these pilots and maintenance personnel. So because of that, there have been number of strikes, go slow, and some
Yes.
kind of agitation, including from pilots, maintenance engineers, mass sick leave, and all that. So this shows that the management of the airline is not really sort of geared up to handle such situation. Now, maintenance standards are definitely not bad, but because of these demotivation, morale being low of the personnel, they are frustrated, and then they, of course, they tend to be a little more maybe casual. I don't say that they might be casual, but they may be casual. They may not take interest in their job. Their mind may be distracted because of that. Maybe they are not able to do the job in a very efficient manner, and maybe even some of our personnel may be lacking skills.
That's an important point, Air Commodore Siwach, which you're making, over and above the points that came out from the previous speakers about, the crisis in funding, the financial crisis, the manpower issue, the technology that is required to detect the kind of errors. What you are saying is about the employee morale that has taken a beating. I take your point there, but, the fact of the matter is that in this kind of a scenario where you have, like you mentioned, the mass leave, it's literally like the employees are also arm twisting the airline management as and when they like. You had a situation, at least in the case of Indigo, where everyone reported sick and the entire flight schedules got disrupted. That brings me to my next question, Mr. Parvez Damania, that often enough, passenger time and money is also taken for granted. Now, if you have mismanaged and your staff is not cooperating and you have not resolved matters, who suffers? It's the passenger end of the day. Their time, their money is taken for granted. I would draw your attention to an incident that happened recently where passengers who were going to Shirdi were offloaded in Bombay and put in a bus because of certain issues that the flight could not make it to Shirdi. Now, why is it that, airlines simply do not take into consideration the fact that a passenger that have paid the kind of money for an air ticket deserve to be treated better?
The passengers today, the passengers are literally being taken for granted. Now, there are disputes going on within the airlines. Maybe their staff is not cooperating, or maybe they are not able to meet safety criteria. See, in the larger picture, the person who is funding everything, that is the passenger who's purchasing tickets, is suffering in the end. Now, today, aviation industry also is, of course, like any other industry, is also very much on the trust factor, which, of course, passengers are losing trust in maybe certain airlines because of the repeated number of incidents which are coming up. Now, another thing which is there is passenger service is concerned. Now, today, the service, not only the airlines also today, due to the number of competition which has come up, are only looking at the cost factor, that how much money I'm going to make out of it, how much ticket I can upsell, what can I do? In everything, in all of this, passenger comfort or passenger service is given a right. Now, today, there, of course, DGCA has to come up with the safety criteria, safety issues, and there has to be stricter implementation that the passengers today who are the actual consumers who are suffering. Now, of course, taking into consideration all the safety incidents which are coming up. See, major thing which is there is the law which is there. Implementation of the law has to be stricter. Now, today, what the airlines are doing, every airline, there is an incident, comes up with a statement that we were compliant with all DGCA guidelines, we were met last month, or we have passed the audits. How after passing audits, how after being compliant on paper, on record, in actual scenario, what we are seeing today is the opposite, that airlines are, these are maybe this 2022 has been the maximum number of incidents maybe recorded by airlines in the Indian aviation sector. Now, what is happening is the law which is there, the minimum benchmark which these airlines are operating on, has to be raised, because till the time the minimum benchmark which is not, because these people are only going to spend that much amount of money which is going to comply them the minimum factor. Now, the aviation regulator, that is the DGCA, has to take a note of it and has to raise the benchmark. If the benchmark is raised, there has to be a better safety compliance. Once there is a better safety compliance, everything will come in order. Apart from that, of course, the passengers are suffering because of the delays, because of flights, there is no compensation given. They are not informed that, see, there may be times when flights are delayed because of these safety incidents. We are hearing a passenger sitting in the terminal maybe for 6 hours, 8 hours.
Yes.
and there is no compensation given. There is nothing given. Sometimes even basic food, water is not served to them. Actually, it is the right of the passengers to have this, and this should be also one of the prerogatives that DGCA should, or maybe make a regulation. If a flight is delayed, what are they entitled to as compensation?
But
The
how
airline
will
should.
things change, Mr. Parvez Damania? These kind of warnings have come from DGCA. Now you have the ministry issuing a directive, and we have at least three new airlines coming up. Do you think that will compel the existing airlines to pull up their socks? Or do you think that much needs to be done even before you have more airlines joining the pack, given the current scenario?
The airlines, the margins are very wafer thin. Today, the airlines that do not take care of their passengers or customers will suffer in the long run, because the new airlines will come with better aircrafts, newer aircrafts. So today is the time for the airlines to pull up their socks, make sure the consumer is satisfied, make sure they deliver the best experience to the consumer. Today, if there's a flight going, for example, just one flight is going Mumbai to Shirdi or Mumbai to Kolhapur, and the passengers are made to suffer, the passengers do not have an option. But tomorrow, more airlines are going to come, larger fleets are going to come, the new Mumbai airport is going to open up. So it will be survival of the fittest. And today, what is again surprising to me is the airlines do not have a limitation on their fare structure. The government has opened up the fare structure. But certain sectors like Kulu and all, sometimes the fares are 20, 25, 30,000. So if you are charging whatever you like and the consumer is paying whatever suits you, then why is the service standards not delivered? Why is the consumer not getting what is expected of them? Again, what I'm saying, like Sarosh was saying, we need to have a consumer awareness policy. The consumer should know their rights. That at 2 hours delay, I will get this. At 6 hours delay, I'll get this. If this happens, I'll get it overnight hotel. The consumer is sometimes, unfortunately, not aware. The government should have an awareness campaign where the consumer knows what he's entitled to. So things have to change. People have to change. The airlines have to think of themselves as a consumer product and have to sharpen themselves up. That's what I think.
Yes, absolutely. Captain Singh, again, the fact of the matter is, if there are other real compulsions, I'm just going to be the devil's advocate for a minute and say, well, the airlines have their compulsions, whether it is the financial compulsion, whether it is the cap on fares that they cannot go beyond, and yet they have their expenses to look at. Certain maintenance processes take a backseat. Do you think it's a matter of prioritizing for these airlines that are not able to do it in the right earnest? Captain Singh, I wanted to ask you that question. Captain Amit Singh?
Yeah, so when we
hear you.
about maintenance, the data is available with the DGCA. DGCA publishes an annual safety report. If I quote from the 2020 report, which presents the 2019 data when COVID was not there, financial crisis was not there. So as per that report, incident involving component system failure per 10,000 flight hours, DGCA had a target of 2.16, but the actual performance was 2.39, which means they could not meet the target. There were higher number of component failures per 10,000 hours. Number of maintenance errors per 10,000 flights, DGCA had kept a target of 1.43. They actually achieved 1.46, which means the target was not met. So DGCA is aware that maintenance is an issue.
Okay.
The minister had given a statement in the parliament that there are about 750 incidents per year. 70 to 80% of these incidents are due to maintenance and component failure. 10 to 15 are due to pilot error, and rest are others. So maintenance is an issue. In 2019, after the spate of incidents during the monsoon, there was a special audit conducted, and it was pointed out that maintenance is an issue. That time there was COVID, no financial stress. It is basically the culture prevailing in the country. And if DGCA was aware of this as being a big issue, why was it not prioritized? Another example I would give is the Calicut accident. The accident does not happen out of the blue. If you ask any safety expert, there are enough warnings which are given or which could be detected before an accident. In Calicut, before this accident, there was a SpiceJet 2400 which went off the runway on the side. Fortunately, no, it was a minor incident. Next was an Etihad A3. It went off the runway on the side. The investigation was not carried out by it was carried out by the civil aviation. I think that is the first time report is conducting. So the report clearly said that the centerline lights were not there, the weight indicator was not correct, and so the issues were pointed out at brief airport. And these were one of the reasons for the Calicut accident. So there were enough warnings.
No, what you're saying, sir, essentially is that DGCA is aware. Now, that is where the problem is. If the highest authority when it comes to civil aviation of this country, the regulator, is aware of these issues and yet not able to do the course correction, we really have a problem in our hands. And when we report instances of air mishap, the two things as a journalist we look at, whether this was a technical snag or whether this was a human error. Now, from what you tell me, the data you have quoted, you're saying 70 to 80% is a component error, if I got it correctly, where maintenance failure has caused these mishaps. Now, that is not acceptable. It means that these are things that can be averted with the right kind of practice. So is the best practices not in place, Air Commodore Siwach? What do you say to DGCA first and to the airlines then? How can we do a course correction?
Actually, best practices are in place, but shortcuts are taken. Sometimes rules, regulations, standard operating procedures are violated. And another important thing is that we are reactive in our approach. Now, after so many incidents which have occurred, we have been waiting, and finally now Minister of Civil Aviation had to call a meeting. So this, our DGCA had to continuously interact with the operators, have their own source of information. They should be able to feel the pulse of each of the airline. What are the problems? Where are they lacking? What are their shortcomings and how they can improve? And then they have to check them well in time. You have to be proactive in your approach. DGC had to be proactive in their approach. Now, just take the example of safety man system, what Captain Amit was talking about. Now, safety man system is a proactive approach to accident prevention. But unfortunately, the safety man system has been implemented in most of the places only on paper. And this has been highlighted during a briefing by the Minister of Civil Aviation in our parliament. When he was briefing the lawmakers, that time he admitted that yes, our safety management system implementation has been found to be lacking. But still, nothing much has been done about it. When something happens, like it happened in your Mangalore, we reacted. After 1 week, 10 days, everything died down. Second, 10 years it took Kozhikode, same identical situation, except the one Mangalore was daytime and the Kozhikode was nighttime. Otherwise, identical situation. Weather, of course, was also bad at Kozhikode.
Yes.
But we do not
I want to read out once again, with your permission, sir, what was found out by the DGCA. And again, it reflects exactly what all of you are saying here on the show. What DGCA found out, let's put that graphics out. What it found out was improper identification of a cause of a reported defect, increasing trend of the usage of minimum equipment list, which means that you are barely managing with the bare minimum, which is not acceptable. That has become the norm. Non-availability of enough staff to cater to arrival and departures. Airlines not following regulatory provisions. So all of this actually put together or even individually can lead to mishaps. I want to also draw our viewers' attention and play out a statement by the Prime Minister himself, where he speaks about making air travel accessible to all. He said in one of his speeches in 2017, and I think we have it with us, we can play it even, that, Hawai chappal pehnne wale Hawai jahaz mein travel karenge. That was the dream of the Prime Minister. But in the process, in the bargain, we cannot be seen to be compromising with the passenger safety. It's all right to make it accessible. It's good to make it accessible. But will you also be able to make it safe? Okay, we have that part of the Prime Minister's speech. Let's listen in.
मेरा तो सपना है कि हवाई जहाज पे कौन लोग बैठने चाहिए. ये जो एक बना हुआ है ना, बड़े बाबू, बड़े बड़े लोग, धनी लोग, ये दुनिया उन्हीं के लिए है. इस देश की जो सुविधाएं अमीरों को प्राप्त हैं, वो मेरे देश के गरीब को भी मिलनी चाहिए. जो सामान्य व्यक्ति हवाई चप्पल पहन करके घूमता है, वो मुझे हवाई जहाज में दिखना चाहिए. ये मेरा सपना है.
Damania, what do you have to say? I mean, okay, has this dream become a reality even? This was said in September 2017. But in the process, have we sort of compromised in the long run? Where did we go wrong?
I think the growth in India is phenomenal. Actually, airlines are doing very, very well. The kind of service standards they're providing are very high. Unfortunately, I don't know why. I think after COVID, the airlines have taken a huge beating. But I think that COVID story left behind. Just to give you an idea, from February 22 to March 22, there was a 38% jump. As far as domestic aviation is concerned, we have crossed all limits of last year. We are doing very, very well. And I think if this continues, India will definitely end up becoming the third largest market in the world. Today, for Boeing and Airbus, India is the largest customer. I think we should keep, and if you see the KPMG report 2040, it shows that growth is not going to stop. Number of people traveling in India is still very, very minuscule. Just doubling that will require the aviation industry to double. And I hope that all airlines do well. These minor hiccups should get corrected.
Okay.
And I think the Prime Minister's dream that more and more people should fly, every ordinary person should fly. That's what we're saying. The Prime Minister's dream is that airline should become an infrastructure project for the common man.
Yes.
It should not be reserved for the rich, that I am rich, that's why I can fly. It should be accessible. The Udan scheme of the Prime Minister is usually successful in its own way. In certain areas, it's doing well. But let us hope that this incident, the airlines get to put it behind them, look for a bright future, and correct their course. You see, again, even if an engineering problem is there, one of the issues you mentioned that there's not enough staff for arrival and departure. I mean, that is absurd. There are thousands of kids who are looking for jobs in the aviation business. There can easily be more and more people can be employed. So these issues that the airlines are facing are not impossible to overcome.
Okay.
They can easily be overcome by just proper management. I think the airlines just need to shape up their management standards, and everything will fall in its place.
I think we'll have to leave it at that. It was quite an interesting conversation. We covered all the aspects of how this kind of mismanagement can be corrected, if at all there is a strong intent on the part of the DGCA, also on the part of the airlines as well, on the part of the government to actually prioritize on this aspect. Given the number of incidents that have happened at the moment, I would say passenger confidence is shaken. There's a lot that is left to be desired when it comes to airline management. Thank you so much to all my guests joining us in this conversation. Let's take a short break here. News and updates continue on the other side. Stay with the Urban News.